morning, good evening, and good night to everyone else in the world. This is the hot seat number 3 for the copywriting mentorship program in the winter. Let's see who we've got going so far, and we will start this right off. Try and take everyone's time into consideration. Michael, welcome. Miri, welcome. I understand it's still the holidays for a lot of people. A lot of people are off work. A lot of people are with family, so probably isn't going to be an enormous live attendance here. And we had 10 people turn in their assignments. So this one's probably going to be a little bit shorter, which is fine by me. It's up to you guys, but try to get, and Bitcoin was a pretty tough assignment. So long story short on the Bitcoin assignment, we started to call it the Widowmaker because every single mentorship program stumbles on this assignment. It's either because they didn't do enough research, they didn't know what kind of research, they weren't interested in the topic, they found that Coinbase had some, authority problems or, some issues with it. So it's a very difficult assignment. So if you had trouble with it, don't worry. Yeah, everybody has trouble with it. And it's going to be something that we are going to talk about. And it's something that kind of helps you grow as a copywriter, because the effort it takes to write for something that you're not super interested in is monumental compared to the stuff that you are interested in. But if you want to be a professional copywriter, or if you want to work with clients at all or anything like that, then there's going to come a time when you're writing for something that you're not interested in, or you're writing for something that you just don't want to write for that day. And unfortunately, if that's the line of work that you've chosen to be a professional copywriter and make a shit ton of money from it, then you have to power through those, because it's not an option to say, oh, I'm not going to do this one and refund the guy $10,000 or $20,000. So with this assignment, there's a lot of learning lessons in it. We'll try and dig into that. But thank you for being here live, Brittany, Michael, and Miriam. And we are going to go ahead and jump in. First things first, tech question. Can you hear me? Can you see Brittany's assignment? And is everything working properly? Okay, good. Okay, you can see Brittany's assignment, or can you see the screen? I'm trying out the show screen thing. Okay. Okay, assignment, great. Cool. So let's dive in and do that. So Brittany, you're up first. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat, or we can bring you on live. Like I said, it might be a little shorter today because not as many people turned theirs in, not as many people are going to be on live. So your target is a socially conscious entrepreneur, B Corp or NGO. That's an interesting, I like that specificity. So the group of people tend to hang out in the crowds aware of alternative currencies, and may have tried something like time banking. They haven't heard of Bitcoin, but they've heard of Bitcoin and haven't invested yet. Okay, I don't even know what time banking is, so this is going to be interesting for me to read. So, and the alternative, socially conscious entrepreneur, B Corp and NGO, and is hang out in the crowds aware of alternative currencies. Interesting. If you can, in the chat, Brittany, tell me what time banking is, because I might not understand what you're going for if I don't understand that. Now, let's see. Greed. They want to live in a better world, and are action takers who are creating this change. They're triggered by the greedy banks and the governments. Got it. Okay, that's good. I like that. They want to live in a better world. They're action takers who want to create change, but they're one of the things they don't like is greedy banks and governments. Okay, their primal desire is, you went with greed. All right, we'll see how that goes. Bitcoin users are aware of Bitcoin markets. Okay, are aware of the service. Convince them to try it out. Answer any major objections. Yep. And while it's in the mechanism, cool. All right, let's see how we did. Let me see first, before I start, see if you answered time banking. Just trading time for services. Oh, okay. So it's kind of like it's a term that someone uses for like freelancing. It's different from time banking. Or it's this, okay, interesting. Cool. Let's see how this goes. So The greatest advancement since the advent of the internet. Okay. And what bankers and governments... So I would not start a headline with the word and. It's just a little grammatical thing, unless you really know what you're doing. So if you want it to sound like kind of a, a second half of a sentence in addition to the pre-head, because most people look at the headline first and not the pre-head. So if you start it with an and, it's the very first thing they see. What bankers in the government don't want you to know, an opportunity that only comes once in a lifetime. Okay, so this headline is a very blind lead. Is what we call it in the copywriting world is a blind lead, because nothing in this headline tells me anything about what you're about to talk about, other than kind of like some hype factor, right? The greatest advancement since the beginning of the internet. Bankers and government don't want you to know, an opportunity that only comes once in a lifetime. It's a very hype-focused headline, which can work in certain marketplaces at certain times, but for a level 2 and a level 3 awareness and sophistication, it's probably not going to work. It's going to seem very, very much like hyped, very much, it's going to meet a lot of cynicism. And with this marketplace in particular, well, you're going with socially conscious entrepreneurs, B Corps, NGOs, and things like that. They have a visceral reaction to like hypey headlines. They have a very negative reaction to hypey headlines. Especially so, the way I'm seeing it, Brittany, is that you're going after the crowd of people who are this, the B Corp, conscious capitalism style entrepreneur who wants to change the world. They're aware of emerging technology. They're aware of, marketing and business and the tech world and things like that, I'm assuming, but they've chosen to kind of focus on socially conscious things. They're the type of person who's going to go to Burning Man. They're the type of person who's going to, live in San Diego with a bunch of their friends. Like there's that type of person is what I'm anticipating here. And that type of person, especially at level 2 and level 3 for their awareness and sophistication, is going to have a very visceral reaction to a hypey headline. And this is just straight hype. Like I said, there is a time and a place for a hypey headline. Financial markets, like straight up financial markets selling to 65-year-old white men, those are prime for hypey headlines as long as you can back it up with proof. And that's a big thing about that marketplace is most people just try to hype and they have no proof. But it can work, right? The greatest advancement since the advent of the internet is a big, bold claim that you can then prove to that marketplace. But in this marketplace, my gut feeling is that they're going to respond very negatively and viscerally to it. So I would rethink the idea of the headline here. But let's go more on the copy. We're the edge of a technological breakthrough so big it could change. Good job on splitting these up. Like, I like that you're doing one sentence and you're going down, you're doing a little bit more of Andre Chaperon style copy. I really appreciate that because it helps move through the copy faster, especially for a big, meaty topic like Bitcoin. So let's go up here. Today we're on the edge of a technological breakthrough so big it will change how the entire world uses money. It will change how we see and measure value. It might be hard to believe, but not everyone is going to see these events coming. Hindsight is always 20/20. Okay, so you're taking what you're trying to kind of hype an abstract concept. And so it's, and again, you even use the word abstract concept. So you're trying to basically make someone really excited about an abstract concept. And with Bitcoin, that's understandable. That's kind of what we're going for to try and sell it. But there's a better way to try and hype an abstract concept. The number one way I would do that is to start with a story that feels real, but also seems a little bit fantastical. Because when you're telling a story, people have this natural inclination to suspend their disbelief for a little bit, versus when you're just kind of telling them about something, then they're skeptical, especially when there's hype involved, right? You have to understand that when you're hyping something, there has to be something in the copy that breaks through the cynicism, and it needs to be very, very quick, because if all they see is hype, then they're not going to break through and get to the point where you're actually explaining what you mean by the hype, if you ever do. Because a lot of people just try to hype all the way through. When explaining an abstract concept and you're trying to make it exciting, the best way you can do that is through a story. And a story that is specifically related to your target market, like the social entrepreneurs, would be even more relevant. So here's an example, like a nonprofit organization operating in rural Singapore, or not Singapore, rural something, Ghana, whatever, was having a hard time moving currency around so that their donations could get directly to their constituents, the people who they were trying to help. And they were having trouble moving around banks. All the local banks were corrupt. They were taking pieces. The donations were getting lost. It was just a crazy thing. And then they found one interesting brand new technology on the internet that allowed them to instantly and for completely free or something like that, transfer 100% of the donations that they got to a local area or for a local person using this one technology or something like that. The story shift is different, but the same level of hype is there because you've got a conscious entrepreneur who's trying to do something. The governments are taking away their stuff, and now there's this brand new technology that completely cuts out that middleman and allows them to save more money, but it's just as hyped as what you were talking about. Does that make sense? Okay. Cool. So let's keep going through here. Like I said, I focus mostly on the leads with these things because I don't think the headline or the lead is going to pull them in here. Okay. Also, there's when writing an advertorial, because that's what this assignment was. It was for an advertorial. You want to write it very similarly to an editorial or to a journalistic piece or something like that, so that it feels like and looks like a piece of journalism. The only intent for the advertorial then would be to stay looking like a piece of journalism until the end when the person is pulled through most of the narrative, and then they go, oh, this is actually a sales piece, but they were very informative and very helpful, so I'm going to go check out whatever it is they were talking about. That's kind of like the angle you want for an advertorial. You don't want them to be completely fooled by the fact that it's actually a sales piece and not an article, because not only is that now illegal on most of the platforms like Facebook and Google and things like that, but it also is very, very difficult to do in today's day and age, to fake a news article. What you want to do is have that sales component to it, but also be helpful and informative enough in the advertorial that you don't get them all pissed at you, essentially. There's a good example. I always go to David Ogilvy for great examples of advertorials. So we are just going to look at these. He used a lot of images too, so I apologize if one of the images that comes up is bad. But okay, so here's an advertorial that David Ogilvy did. Actually, let's do this. That's usually on Pinterest, so let's just view the image. All right, and it won't let me zoom in, so let me do this. Okay, so this is an advertorial from Ogilvy selling his own services as an advertising agency, obviously. But you can kind of see how it reads, right? It's definitely an ad for his particular service, but it reads like, you know, some bullet pointed lists, some interesting information about the product. It's telling you or teaching you something. You know, it's not a sales piece directly. It's most definitely an advertorial. So it's writing and giving value of some sort, but then also ultimately pitching, working with Ogilvy and Mather. That's one of the main things. Oh, you can't see it. That's right. Let's do, all right, no, that's assignment number 3. Let's do Google Chrome. All right, can you guys see it? Okay, can you guys see it? Okay, cool. Nice. Okie doke. So this is just one example. And you can type in David Ogilvy ads and then click images. You'll get hundreds of them, dozens of them for sure, but you'll get most of them. there isn't some secret swipe file that somebody has stolen away and is charging a lot of money for. So this is a good example of an advertorial in the classical context. This would have been seen in the Wall Street Journal or in a newspaper, the New York Times, a magazine, something like that. So it obviously wouldn't look exactly like this on the internet, but the concept behind it is really powerful because he's teaching something, he's using case studies, he's showing. This is a very direct advertorial, maybe not for an audience that still needs to be guided into the product, because this is a how-to headline. So if somebody wants to launch a new product, this is very specifically for them. If they're interested in launching a new product, it's very specifically for them. So for Bitcoin, it could be like how to go around the banks, or how to go around banks for NGOs, or how NGOs are getting around international transfer fees. Things like that might be interesting for that level of audience, but again, it's the concept behind this, not the direct modeling that I want you guys to get. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everyone? All right, we're getting yeses. Sweet, we are getting yeses. Excellent. Okay, so yeah, so the lead doesn't really capture me, Brittany, and I think it's, like we already talked about, it needs to be more either story-driven or more specifically an advertorial like a journalist. Advertorials are better for complicated subjects because you can afford to teach a little bit on the front end. Let's see. Okay, so kind of explaining it. The thing is, I don't know, especially since you said these guys are at level 2. So yeah, this was at level 2. They're aware of Bitcoin. They're aware of this service because it's the biggest and most influential. Your job is to convince them to try it out and answer any major objections. So a lot of the piece where you're explaining Bitcoin is stuff that they already know, which is when we speak about, or when we do these hot seats, I refer back to Great Leads a lot. And Great Leads says, or Michael Masterson's one of his best pieces of advice is don't, ask yourself, what does the customer already know, or what does the prospect already know? Most of this, especially in the beginning, is stuff that they already know and aren't necessarily interested in hearing again. So the question that needs to be answered for this piece is, why Coinbase? Not necessarily why Bitcoin. Does that make sense, Brittany? I'm waiting for a response. Okay. Yeah, which is hard. That's part of the difficulty of this assignment is if you don't know anything about Bitcoin and you're told to write something about Bitcoin, or you get a client about Bitcoin or whatever, something comes up, then the amount of knowledge that you need to have in order to meet the level of awareness that this market is at, it is quite considerable. Instead of going around and learning everything about Bitcoin, the trick would be to focus specifically on what you're trying to sell in the first place, and then learning everything you need to know about that particular thing. So instead of going, oh, what is Bitcoin, and then Googling it and Wikipediaing it and finding all this information on Bitcoin and going into Ethereum and going into blockchain technology and going into all this crazy stuff, then what you really need to figure out is, okay, why Coinbase? And how is it different? Like, I'm going to frame and anchor all of my understanding in Coinbase, in the understanding of this company, and then I'm going to go around and learn everything I need to know about it. And then you go, oh, crap, there's a lot of stuff online about Coinbase not being the best option. Why is that? And so you go and you look at some of the problems and the objections, and you think, oh, okay, well, why are a lot of people buying it? Okay, there's questions that need to be answered there. That's a way to frame it. Okay, so you knew Bitcoin, but you didn't understand how it worked. Okay, so that's understandable, but again, in the vein of it being an advertorial, there is a focus on selling the Coinbase specifically, not just teaching people about Bitcoin. So that's essentially my feedback for this piece, because it needs to be, yeah, the feedback that I gave for it is all I can give for this one right now. So overall, not bad. I like that you're separating the sentences into something easier. I like that you're doing a logical flow to the information, and you're kind of explaining, okay, why this, and then you go into something a little deeper, and you go, why this. I just think that the focus was off for this piece, and so there wasn't a lot of like specific salesmanship going on around Coinbase until we got, you know, down here, and, you know, we're done talking about Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. So I think the focus then and the takeaway for this would be to, if there's an assignment that either you don't quite comprehend, or if you do comprehend it but you're kind of running out of options to angle the service, then I would start with the service and start morphing your ideas around there and researching specifically from the product. So if I wanted to write for that Grizzly assignment, or if I wanted to write for a pen company, I would start at the company and start looking around the information for them rather than starting at the big broad concepts. Awesome. All right, so that was Google Chrome, and now that was Brittany, and I think this is Vikesh. So let's jump into Vikesh. Cool. Can everybody see Vikesh's document? The time is 12:21. 80. All right, good. All right, Vikesh. Are you missing out on the Bitcoin boom? 7 reasons why Bitcoin could hit $10,000 a coin. Okay, yeah, this is a good example of an advertorial, especially for like a financial style headline, and that's what I believe Vikesh is going for here. I don't know if you're on live, Vikesh, but I believe that's what you're going for here. You'll see these types of advertorials a lot in finance, and so we're going to frame it from that perspective. Are you missing out on the Bitcoin boom? 7 reasons why Bitcoin could hit $10,000 a coin. So that's a strong headline. I might add, if you're going to be specific like this, I would add by this date, or by July 2017, by 2018, something like that. That sort of like scarcity is going to compel people to read it even more. So that would be an improvement to that headline. But 7 reasons why Bitcoin could hit $10,000 a coin is going to capture the attention of the person you want to bring in. And then let's see, Christoph Koch was in the library writing a paper on encryption and bought 5,000 Bitcoins. At the time, it was worth 25 bucks. All right, 5,000 Bitcoins for $25. Life took over. He forgot his $25 punt. Okay. 700% in a year. Okay. Prime Minister of India, 500 rupee and 100 rupee will be accepted in India. The price of Bitcoin went up 34%. Okay. Yeah, I like it. By adding 2 anecdotal stories about someone massively increasing their investment, you're going to, and you already answered the #1 objection, which is, okay, 2009, did I miss the boat? No, the 9th of November 2016, Bitcoin went up by 34%. So, and then now that you've captured their attention at this point, which means that I like this lead a lot. I like the headline, I like the lead, I think it's strong. And thinking it's too late to get involved with Bitcoin is like thinking it's too late to get started using the internet. And that's a good quote, because the #1 cynicism for this piece, I feel like I've read this piece before. Maybe you submitted it for the last assessment. Yeah, so this is a strong lead, strong headline, strong carry through, and so I'm going to continue reading here with the understanding that, this is most likely going to pull people through who are interested in investing and also interested in Bitcoin. But are probably very cynical with Bitcoin in the first place. Now let's see if you actually pivot it into Coinbase properly. It's a much bigger disruptor than WhatsApp. WhatsApp disrupted how we communicate. And okay, it's a disruptor. WhatsApp reaches 1 billion people. Bitcoin is open source decentralized currency that could reach over 5 billion people by 2020. Okay. This needs a source. Because if you're going to make a giant claim like that, it needs a source. Especially in financial copy, you need to frame your sources. I mean, this is publicly available knowledge, $19 billion for WhatsApp. That's anywhere. I mean, you can Google it. It pops up immediately. But this is going to need a source because it's not publicly verifiable yet unless you have a specific place to put it, and you need to show people where it is. Like, you need to say something like the World Economic Forum says that it could reach over 5 billion people by 2020 or something like that. It needs an authority or needs a source of some sort. So let's put it this way: bigger disruptor than a messaging app, revolutionized banks, payments, entire financial industry, and significantly undervalued. This is the key word right here. It will do to Western Union what Netflix did to blockbusters. Okay, I like all the anecdotal stories you're throwing in here and making it relevant for specific, for different types of companies. Because everybody understands what Netflix did to blockbusters. Everybody understands what WhatsApp is if they're following tech at all, because it was a huge acquisition from Facebook. And WhatsApp, especially in other countries, is much more massive than it is in the United States. So I like the use of anecdotal stories and specifics here, but you do want to verify your sources if it's not public information. Okay, replacing PayPal and credit cards. Again, verify your sources. I mean, other than, yes, accept Bitcoin payments right now, I would say let's see, providers like Coinbase are free to use for transactions up to $1 million and then just 1% afterward. Interesting. I like how you inserted Coinbase in here. Perfect. Faster, not weeks, protected from chargebacks. All right. Bitcoin payments are confirmed and can't be reversed. No exchange. Take payments globally from anywhere in the world. Finally, read that New York Times article without subscribing. Interesting. So only get a pop-up that says Bitcoin lets you pay for just one article without forking over hundreds of dollars for a one-year subscription. Micropayments. All right, interesting. Micropayments are significant. A new banking model for the unbanked. So all of these points are actually very strong points because they're bringing up new information for people. At least if you're a casual investor, Bitcoin, or you're someone who's not like hyper interested in it yet, which is the level of this marketplace, obviously, or you need some sort of reason to really look at it, this is the type of article that they would want to read. I think this is very strong. This is well done, Vikesh. Smart and successful money is already there. That's always a good benefit. And let's see, gold to be mined. All right, so a finite amount in the entire universe, the price can only go up. Okay, I would also verify this as well, because obviously people have seen the spikes up and down. They've seen it go to 1,300. They've seen it go back down to 900. They've seen it, you know, up and down like crazy. So verify this with some sort of proof, because that's going to immediately make me skeptical if I know about Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form. Let's see. Yep. Single biggest risk with Bitcoin. Okay. So you basically, sold me on Bitcoin here, and then you're talking to me about the risk, which is the first question in my head after I get sold it, which is excellent. It's open to any lonely, geeky 15-year-old programmer. Yep. Talking about the stealing and stuff like that. So basically, Bitcoin is awesome, but there's one problem with it, which is security. And then Coinbase is okay. Excellent pivot. So everybody watching this is a really great this is a great advertorial for this program, or for this product. This is an excellent advertorial for this product. Now, keeping this in mind, Vikesh had a lot more time to work on this than you guys did because he was in a previous mentorship program. So to take what you guys did in a week to what Vikesh has done in however long it's been, they're not apples to apples comparisons, but this is a great example of a strong financial focused advertorial for Coinbase as a service. I think this is well connected, well put together. So, Vikesh, excellent, well done. I really like this piece a lot. Good job. All right, showing the main screen now. Let's jump into John's. All right, and I'm sorry I'm going a little slower, trying to give these a little bit more of a review because we only have the 10 of them. Hopefully that's okay with you guys. All right, John Roddy, are you on here? Nope. All right, so we'll just go through this. Bitcoin predicted to rise 165% to $2,000 in 2017, driven by Trump's spending binge and dollar rally. Okay, so this automatically speaks of a lack of awareness of the current headlines, unless I'm behind, which is very possible. I try to avoid them, especially when I'm on a holiday or vacation. But in my head, Trump is actually trying to reduce spending, and he's done so in very theatrical ways, like, you know, yelling at Boeing for having a really expensive airplane, and then talking about cutting the F-35 program. So I'm not sure if this quite meets the sniff test in terms of headlines veracity. And the dollar rally, maybe. I haven't been focusing on the currency markets at all, so if that's true, that might be true. But again, you want to be careful with headlines like this because they age very, very quickly. You know, if Trump announces tomorrow that he's going to cut the budget by 10% somehow, or if he's going to repeal what Obama just passed in his budget and cut it by a crazy amount, then there's the spending binge is not going to make sense to anyone. And if the dollar tanks for some reason, or, you know, China, you know, unpegs from the dollar or something, I'm showing my own lack of knowledge in that arena right now because I'm not really sure if they're already unpegged or not. But long story short, these have a shelf life, and so you want to be very careful of them. Okay. Do you wish you could secure your future with financial stability in a safe way? Okay, I think that headline, or this, that's not a headline, this line could be worded better. It's the first thing you see after the images. And so instead of, do you wish you could secure your future with financial stability in a safe way, that does not sound like something you would say to someone sitting next to you in a chair. You know, instead you would say something like, do you want to secure your future financially, but in a safe way that isn't, you know, beholden to all the banks, or that isn't like controlled by the banks, or, you know, with the banks who just got bailed out like 8 years ago, or what was it, 2008, 6 years, 8 years now. Wow. Are you tired of centralized banking, misleading promises? Then look no further. Okay. I think this might overdo the hype a little bit, because if you say Bitcoin predicted to rise 165%, I want proof in the very first part of the lead, similar to what Vikesh did, especially since this is a financial headline or financial marketplace with that type of angle, especially with Trump in the headline. I'm going to want proof in the very first, rather than, you know, I don't see any proof yet, other than massive GDP, which is an already known factor in this marketplace. Like, we know that GDP growth, or total debt outstanding, is way out of control, especially for, you know, a conservative financial buying audience. So this is all stuff where they go, yes, I already know that. Like, and when you say alternative currencies will benefit from economic chaos, you don't need to prove economic chaos to me because I already believe in it. You need to show me how alternative currencies will benefit. So right now you're teaching me about GDP, which is stuff that I already know, Um, and and you need to show basically proof on how Bitcoin has operated in previous areas. Like, for instance, if Bitcoin is seeing a rally in usage in Zimbabwe because they have crazy inflation right now, then, or Venezuela, if you can correlate some sort of really highly relevant data with what you're trying to say, which is that like Bitcoin is the currency of the apocalypse, then once you make that claim, you have to prove it. So go show me if Bitcoin has been used more in Venezuela. Go show me if it's been used more in Zimbabwe, because both of those places are experiencing hyperinflation. Where is it primarily used? Like, where has it increased versus decreased in various areas? You want to do a ton of proof with this style headline, because the marketplace, especially for a financial focused marketplace, is very dependent on proof. You have to have it. It needs to be there. It needs to be strong. It needs to be something they haven't heard before. That's one of the first things I want to bring up about this piece, because so this is your verification of your headline. It's talked about an increase in fiscal spending. This is just not, it doesn't hit the sniff test for me. So Bitcoin event is scheduled to happen. Bitcoin's price shot up more than 100 times in a year. Okay, show me what that is. Where is it? I don't see it, and yeah, I don't see it. You made a claim and I don't see it. So you see a very rare Bitcoin event is scheduled to happen. It only happened once before. When it did, Britain's price shot up more than 100 times within a year. Or Bitcoin. I keep saying Britain. But I don't see the proof for that claim. I think that's the theme of this piece. You need to prove your claims when you're making really big claims, right? The price of Bitcoin could hit more than $2,000 in 2017, driven by expectations. Whose expectations? Like, okay, a report by Saxo Bank, right? A report by Saxo Bank is the first time I've really seen any sort of proof element for what you talked about in the headline. So that needs to be much, much higher up in the piece. And yeah, so overall, I think the piece lacks proof, and then it's going to then color your product itself, because it sounds to me like there isn't a strong case, not as strong as the one that that Vikesh just made in his advertorial around the same lines. So there needs to be a stronger case for what you're claiming, because with anything that you're going for in a financial marketplace, it needs to have a ton of proof. Hey, Chris, you can just send me the royalties if you use it. All right, yeah, I think that's my feedback on this one. So, boop. All right, that's John. Miri. Zoom this in a little bit. Time Magazine. I like. Nice. Business by Miriam Lenoff. All right. Well done, Miriam. I like that a lot. As long as it's actually Time. Like, if you could put this in Time, that'd be amazing. I know that they do accept guest blogs. But never do this for real, or never fake this. So never make like a ClickFunnels page that looks like Time Magazine. Yes, it works like crazy to sell product. It's also super illegal according to the terms of service for Facebook and Google and all of those places. So it will get your account shut down. It will get you banned from that platform, and it will do that very quickly. So yes, it works very well while it's working, but then it's going to get you kicked off. But if this is actually an article in Time, then that's exactly what this is supposed to look like, and I like that little accent. I think it's appropriate. Just so everybody knows. Yeah. Just so everybody knows, So one thing you're going to notice, and actually I'm not going to bring this up now because I don't want to mess with the screen, but um, go read Facebook's terms of services. I think it's their advertising terms of services. I think it's highly relevant for copywriters in general, because if you are going to write copy online, most of the time your copy is going to be seen on or after a Facebook ad. So if it's any way involved with Facebook, like you're sending traffic to it or whatever, it needs to meet certain stipulations, and those ad requirements are very stringent. You're going to go find it, you're going to go look at it, and it's going to talk about advertorials. Advertorials, Facebook doesn't quite understand what that means. In their mind and what they're describing, an advertorial is a fake news article, like I just described. It is a page, a web page on the internet, or a website on the internet designed to look like another authority website, but it isn't actually that website. So if if this was like timemag.net and you put this on there, and timemag.net was like a filler site for this one article, then that's not going to be okay on Facebook. If you do a ClickFunnels page that's made to look identical to a Men's Health article, that's not going to fly. But an advertorial, in the sense of how you write it, as in it's a powerful piece of content that then persuades someone to take action, that's fine. There's no issues with that, as long as the domain and the presentation is legitimate. That's the main goal with Facebook. Now don't hyperquote me on that, because you need to always look at the stuff in terms of conditions on Facebook, but my understanding and how people are currently doing it right now, they're more concerned about the fake advertorials and not the style of writing that is an advertorial. So let's look at the headline. Exchanging money, just like exchanging words on an email. Bitcoin, how to easily join the new global financial revolution. That headline does not make sense to me, Mary. It's clunky. It doesn't make sense. Does the term Bitcoin scare you? Are you not completely sure what Bitcoin does and how it can benefit you? Also, considering that, and I'm not really sure which audience you're going for here, and this is not me being sexist, but I think the primary audience for the majority of like a Bitcoin style thing is still a younger male techie. And so that could be completely off. Maybe Bitcoin is has primarily female followers. I'd have to go verify that research, but I think it's male techies, younger male techies, and just with younger males in general, they don't really respond well to scare language. Like, does this scare you? Are you worried about this? That sort of language, because there is some truth to the statement that a younger male audience feels like they're invincible, or they don't want to admit they're scared or anything like that. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is speaking to the right target market right now, and especially after the headline doesn't make any sense. Are you not completely sure what Bitcoin does or how it can benefit you? So I think that this is going for an awareness level that is slightly higher than less aware than what we would normally be going for in this piece. I don't think this is a level 2 aware audience. This might be a level 4. They've heard of Bitcoin, but that's it. They don't really have any desire to go with it. The audience we're trying to speak to with Coinbase are the people who are actively looking at Bitcoin and thinking about investing in it, or already investing in it, and they need a Bitcoin wallet, because that's the type of person who's going to be shopping for different types of Bitcoin wallets. So a lot of the explanation here, this is probably true of most of the pieces that we're going to read today. So let me just say it for everyone who's listening and everybody who's listening on the recording. What I'm noticing is that a lot of people who aren't super aware of Bitcoin, or aren't part of the target market, wrote their sales letter at the level of their own personal understanding of the marketplace, from their own personal perspective of, this is what I know about Bitcoin, and this is what I would have wanted to know when I started. That's fine if that's the target market you're writing to, but the problem that I see on a big meta level is that when you're uncomfortable with a project, or when you're uncomfortable with a specific type of copy, or a topic or a research market or anything like that, then your automatic reaction is to focus on your own personal understanding of that and write from there. Like, what would I want to hear? What would I want to see? What would I want to do? That's the wrong way to write copy, and that's why most copy fails. Most copywriters are unable to detach themselves from their own lack of knowing and their own perspective on things, especially for things that they aren't necessarily attached to. Like Bitcoin, if you have no interest in Bitcoin whatsoever, it's kind of hard. But the goal then would be to talk to the prospect's level of awareness. So you might not even understand necessarily the bigger picture, but if you're talking to the prospect who is searching for a Bitcoin wallet or has been looking for a solution to store their Bitcoin that's more secure, or think they know a lot about Bitcoin, but they've never made the plunge into actually getting a wallet and starting to do stuff for whatever reason. That's the type of person you're speaking to, not necessarily the person who just figured out about Bitcoin and has to write an assignment for it next Friday. I can see that tone in here. And I think that the only way to combat that is what I said earlier in the webinar. If you get a topic you're not quite familiar with, the first place to start is the product and the understanding of the product. What is Coinbase? Why is it relevant? Why is it brand new? Or why is it interesting? What are some of the objections towards it, if there are any in general? And you're starting to kind of get a feel for the product and what you're going to end up writing for in the first place. And that's going to answer a lot of the questions that you have about the copy when you're looking for target market and you're looking for the primal desire and all that kind of stuff. Because it's very difficult to select a target market if you don't know what you're trying to sell them. If you already know what you're trying to sell them, like it's your product or it's a product in a industry that you know intimately, and so you know everything about that product, then you can start with target market, because that's a choice on your behalf. Like you can go, okay, I want to target 65-year-old men today, or I want to target 50-year-old women, or 12-year-old little boys. Who knows? Like for your action figure or whatever. That's going to be the focus of your target market based on your understanding of the product. So that's what I would start with. Does that make sense to everyone? Kind of rambled a little bit, but hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, just one from Miri, so hopefully Miri. All right, 82. Yeah, so that's the main thing I have here, Miri. I know, I think the entire angle was wrong. So, although I do, again, I'm going to go back to this because I really do appreciate it. The formatting of the letter is excellent. I like that you threw the time up there. It reads like a second letter, like one main letter and one second letter. You're getting better on the brick texting. You're not going as big of paragraphs anymore, which I think is excellent. You're also, being a little more conversational in your writing. That's awesome. I want you to keep that. I think that's really, really important, even for complex topics like this. So I think the main thing is that you missed the perspective of the marketplace here. Yeah, and that's why it's hard. So don't think of this as, I'm not ragging on you guys just to rag on you guys. This is a hard assignment. It would be hard for anyone, especially if you have no idea what Bitcoin is. This is a lesson. It is not it's not just an excuse for me to rag on you guys. It's something that I wanted you to have the experience doing, because most people never try to write copy outside of their comfort zone. This is way outside the comfort zone for most people because they just don't give a shit about this. And when you get outside the comfort zone, you start to learn new things about yourself and how you operate and how you
how you do things in a crunch and all that kind of thing. This entire mentorship program is designed to put you out of your comfort zone in many different ways. It's not just about finally doing a daily action of writing copy. It's not just about getting an assignment that's 2,000 words or more out in a week. And it's, you know, it's all of it wrapped together. It's getting you outside your comfort zone so that by the time you're done, not only do you have a shit ton of work that you can go back and look and say, wow, I did all of this. But then you're, at the end, you're like, you know, I've gotten outside my comfort zone in so many different ways that I feel more confident in my ability to write. I feel more confident in my ability to do research. And I feel like I can now move forward and understand any other information I need with a greater clarity. Because that, for me, that's my goal for you guys. The world of business, the world of copywriting, and the world of marketing, all of it is changing so rapidly that the best thing I can possibly do for you guys is to teach you how to learn and how to get outside your comfort zone. That's basically it. Because if I teach you a Facebook tactic, it will be ruined a month from now. If I teach you an awesome headline, it's going to be crappy in a week because everybody's going to copy you. But so that doesn't serve you. What serves you is the ability to learn and the ability to get outside your comfort zone on a regular basis, because that's the only thing that you guys are actually going to take away from this course and still have with you years from now. So yeah, this is an annoying assignment, and I know it sucks, but I'm glad you guys did it. I'm glad you guys put the effort into it. Sorry for my diatribe. I would put testimonials at the end. Mary says, how do you bring in testimonials or things like that in an advertorial? Is it all based on facts or using proofs as those facts? So I think testimonials in an advertorial are fine. I think the best way to use a testimonial in an advertorial is as a proof element. Just like similar to Ogilvy, like I showed you earlier, if you can use the testimonial to prove one of your points, that's more powerful than just putting them in a brick like this. And I think that that's true of all copy, but especially for advertorials, because usually you have a certain economy of words that you need to meet for an advertorial, and it's going to be better for you if you can incorporate that testimonial as some sort of like as some sort of case study or some sort of like proof element for a point that you're trying to make. So yeah. Okay. I think that's my feedback for you, Mary. All right, Scott McDougall, we are up. Congrats on getting this done, by the way, man. Good job. Seriously. All right, Scott. Why I stopped stockpiling gold and silver and started buying Bitcoin instead. All right, interesting. Newsmax magazine subscribers, cool. Financial focus headline. I stopped stockpiling gold and silver and started buying Bitcoin instead. 45 years ago, I began buying physical gold and silver as a hedge protection, not just against inflation, hyperinflation, also to protect my wife and family from potential overreach by the U.S. federal government. Okay, today I own somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.4 million worth of gold and silver and rare coins, many of which are stored in my private vault in an undisclosed location. Like you, I don't trust those bastards in Washington. Okay, so you're telling me a story about John Doe, and how he hoards gold, and he's a millionaire because he hoards gold. But now, millionaire John Doe is telling me about a new thing about what stopped him from collecting gold and silver. Okay, I like that. It's a good lead. Let's see. I would not say interwebs. That is not a 65-year-old word or 70-year-old word, interweb. The World Wide Web, maybe, because they still remember it as that, even though it's not unnecessary subdomain, but not interwebs. Interwebs is definitely like a Reddit thing. Chatting privately with my Gold 321 buddies, contributing to comments called the Silver Fox Cafe. I don't know about those things, but that's funny. Endless threats that the deep state possesses. Okay. All right. Turn me on a Bitcoin. I had a ton of questions. Let's go over the questions. Bitcoin is digital money. I would kind of explain this, keeping in mind your audience. Yes, this is dumbed down a little bit, but they don't know what an open network is. Managed by users doesn't really make sense. I would use some sort of metaphor in this case if you're going to try to explain it to them in that context. So instead of saying Bitcoin is digital money used for secure and instant transfer of value anywhere in the world, that's kind of explanatory, but I would say something like, let's see if I can think this up off the top of my head. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is like digital gold. There's only so much of it in the world. Bitcoin is like gold made of bits and bytes, because there's only so much of it in the world, and there's only one place you can get it. And it holds its value, but not only that, it can be transferred immediately over the internet, completely securely, for no transfer fees whatsoever. So the government and the banks aren't taking pieces of it as it travels through the world. Like, that is one way to explain it. Something like that, as I'm trying to explain it to someone sitting next to me in a chair. Like, Bitcoin is like digital gold. That might be a better metaphor, because they're already tying it to gold anyway. Is it tied to the value of the dollar? So similar to stocks or property, Bitcoin's value is determined by buying and selling in the open market. Okay. So again, I would tie it to gold. Honestly, I think the whole point, like why I stopped stockpiling gold and silver and started buying Bitcoin instead, is a great headline to capture my attention. But I think the angle that you could have taken with this is Bitcoin is digital gold, and started really making those comparisons over and over and over again. And kind of been like, look, Bitcoin is never going to lose its value below a certain point. It's always going to hold and maintain value, but it's going to be very valuable in these situations. That sort of like language. Because as long as you're connecting something they don't understand with something they do understand, they're going to kind of give you the benefit of the doubt as long as you've got proof to back up your claims. Does that make sense, Scott? I'm going to see if it makes sense, because I'm waiting for a response. But if not, I'll keep going. Similar to a credit card or PayPal, okay? Not owned by any individual company. Why should I use it? Why does it change in value? It's traded 24 hours a day. Because it's still an emerging technology. You might have to answer a lot of these. So like all these questions are bringing up other objections as well. You know, Bitcoin's value can be volatile compared to by a traditional currency such as the US dollar, because it's still an emerging technology. And then I would add something like ... But just like gold, it maintains a certain amount of value. Like gold can go up and down, but it always has a certain intrinsic value. Same with Bitcoin. And keep making those analogies. So December 22nd, Bitcoin sold for $442.84. A year later, it's $826. Yes, there are risks. Consider investing 10 to 20% of your portfolio and being cutting edge of financial technology. Okay. And then you basically go, okay, consider 10 to 20% of your portfolio, and then you start going into wallets. So software, mobile, web, and paper. I like that. And the best mobile wallet is the Coinbase mobile wallet. You started explaining that. Okay, excellent. I like that you're adding a bunch of these proof elements. Forbes magazine, 99 Bitcoins, leader in Bitcoin technology, Wall Street Journal, Time magazine, let's see. This is not something that you need to verify, but or this, but all these places. I like that you're adding in proof elements. Like I said, though, I would add more analogy and potentially like answer the objections raised by some of these questions. Let's see. There you go. That's what I was looking for. So Silbert was about 5 billion at 6.5 at the press time. Periods of economic dislocation with their money in Bitcoin, the way of historically gold and treasuries would rise. Happened during the Greece crisis. Okay, excellent. So this is what I was looking for in the previous advertorial. I want to see proof of when it happened. Like during the Greece crisis, the price of Bitcoin rose past 300. Questions like that. And you're actually doing this as sort of like an interview style. And so Lee Silbert writes in Forbes magazine, da-da-da-da, right? Proof elements. That's another thing to remember about advertorials, guys, is by adding quotes, by adding other people talking about it, it's not just you. You always want to defer authority to someone more authoritative unless your voice or your prospect needs to hear from you or whatever. Always try to like build up the authority, and by quoting people, especially experts, then you borrow their authority in a sales piece. So that's really well done, Scott. Good job. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, this is well done, Scott. Nicely done. This is a really good advertorial, and I think it positions Bitcoin as a strong potential for investment. I think that this may have worked better with some sort of like free giveaway lead gen type deal about how to invest in Bitcoin, which would then lead to actually getting Coinbase rather than trying to incorporate Coinbase into it, because this is mostly a think piece about Bitcoin rather than, you know, how to or why to join Coinbase. But I think overall this is a strong piece. Brian, if you can find it in publicly available records, like newspapers, things like that. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so it depends on where you're at and what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. But if they're on record publicly saying something, you can use it. It's not just the record of the news company. It's the same concept of celebrities. Actually, this is something that not a lot of people teach you because it's an extremely powerful technique, but you do not necessarily need to pay a celebrity for their endorsement to get their endorsement. Let's say I had a client once who sold physical goods, and her physical good that she started with was a purse. She made a handbag. She made the handbag. It was beautiful. It was classy, but she sent the handbag to whoever the lead actress is in Legally Blonde. I am not really sure what her name is. But the lead actress in Legally Blonde, she sent her handbag to that celebrity and then basically just waited for the magazines. And then a couple months later, she found a picture of that celebrity wearing her handbag around LA. She took that picture and turned her company into a $1 or multi-million-dollar company, because that was a tacit endorsement. It was not an actual endorsement that you paid for, but it was tacit. Reese Witherspoon. Cool. Yeah, Reese Witherspoon. So that happened. That's a thing. And it's happened way more often than you would think. Now, with that said, there's a certain amount of gray area. You should always look at, you know, how that works. But if a celebrity or a public figure is on record saying something, if they quoted it in a book, as long as you actually give them credit and you quote it, specifically, and you don't change anything, you don't paraphrase or anything like that, there's very, very little risk on your part as a copywriter, especially if you're just making a point. Now, if you're like, this happens all the time in a ton of different copywriting, a ton of different types of sales, but you don't want to basically imply that that person is endorsing your product directly. You know, so she wouldn't put a headline on her thing that says Reese Witherspoon endorses this product, or Reese Witherspoon said she absolutely loves this, or something like that, or like the Reese Witherspoon handbag, or something like that. You don't want to go that far, but you can say like, this handbag was used by celebrities, because that is a fact. This handbag was used by Reese Witherspoon, and you know, she was wearing it out on the town. That's fact. So it's a tacit endorsement, not necessarily a direct one. You can use those. Just check with legal before you do anything, of course. But there's been a lot of successful copy written by people who did not get paid for the endorsement. Cool, cool. Nice job, Scott. All right. Brian. Actually, Michael. We're going to do Michael first. Sorry, Brian. Where are you? Yeah, right here. All right, can you see Michael's? Okay, we can see it. Now, do you hate money and wish you had less of it? Okay, here's why people are calling Coinbase the cash disposal system of the century. All right, let's see where this goes. Dear friend, have you had a great year in business? Are friends and family green with envy when they see your fancy new sports car, your 6-bedroom mansion, and all 3 of your smoking hot trophy wives? Okay, all right. If you'd like to restore the friendships you've lost since becoming successful, then this would be the most important letter you ever read, because in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to show you a new technology that's so broken, with customer service so bad, that simply searching for reviews will leave you laughing like a hyena that, oh, we even bothered to create a company at all. You'll lose money so much so fast, your friends and family will finally love being around you again, and just think of all the money you'll save on property taxes and Ferrari maintenance. I'll tell you about it in a moment. First, let me explain a little bit about how the Coinbase scam works. All right, so we will get rich on your expense. Hold on. What is this? 18? Yeah, I gotta increase this right here. Not sure what you're going for here, Michael, unless it's just like a 2,000-word joke because you hate Coinbase. Well, I just saw a question that said, is this a joke? I'm going to go down and see that real quick. So this is a joke. Okay. Michael thought I was going to read this before the hot seat. And so here I am wondering what the fuck is going on. And you know what? I'm impressed with the commitment you had to writing an entire sales letter about how shitty Coinbase is. That's hysterical. That is hysterical. This is really funny. I think Reddit would get a huge kick off this. That's hysterical. All right, well, obviously I can't grade it, but that is actually hysterical. So thank you for the laugh. Yeah, Coinbase has some detractors for sure. They also have some huge investors. So it's kind of like a, you know, one of those things. That's hilarious. All right, well, Thank you for the laugh on that one. That was hysterical. All right, let's go with Brian real quick. Let me jump into Brian's. Michael, you bastard, wasting our time. Let's see. Target market, college-educated, English-speaking males who are already using. I can't get over that. That's funny. First one. You're the first one in the mentorship program to do that, and I think it shows commitment to the process to write the whole sales letter. All right. English-speaking males who are already using, considering starting to use Bitcoin. Okay. So Brian, the first thing I notice about that is that this is the wrong awareness level. So this already using, considering to use, or just started using are all different awareness levels for Bitcoin. So you can't really write a piece to all of them at once. Does that make sense? Okay. So if you're going for sloth, like they want to invest in it, but it's too complicated or whatever, they haven't done the research, then they're going to want some sort of like, here, show me exactly how to do it type offer, right? And that would definitely be the considering to use people, right? Not the already using or the started to use, the considering to use, the people who are on the fence. So with that understanding, let's see what we got here. 2017 Bitcoin controversy. Bitcoin insurance. Does the newly debated Bitcoin insurance threaten the whole point of cryptocurrency, or does it encourage growth and get more non-tech users invested in the Bitcoin market? Okay. They have trouble storing their Bitcoin securely, which is a problem, mainly because of the fact that anyone can buy Bitcoins. As soon as you buy BTCs, you're faced with a cold reality. It's up to you to secure and store them. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can see how you're using humor to try and make it seem pretty like crazy to secure it. I get that. Okay. So I think one of the issues here is I'm not really following the narrative. You're kind of rambling. There's no clear connection here, because you said Bitcoin insurance, and then you don't really talk about Bitcoin insurance at all in this lead. But the lead itself is also not leading me into an understanding of something that would help me then process the whole insurance thing. So your headline either has to immediately go into your lead, or there has to be something so fascinating in the lead that pulls me through it that eventually leads me to the exact same place where I wanted to be when I first read the headline. So for example, a headline could be like 2017 Bitcoin controversy, Bitcoin insurance, question mark, or something like that. Does the new Bitcoin insurance threaten the whole point of cryptocurrency, or does it encourage growth and get more non-tech users invested in the Bitcoin market? And then to lead me through it, because my life is being tracked, turned into data, and sold to the highest bidder, is something that I already know as a person considering to use Bitcoin. So this doesn't grab me. I already know that. And so a story like, this is the story of how I ended up staring down the barrel of an M16 just because I was trying to protect my Bitcoins. That's going to capture someone's attention, even after this headline, right? That's used actually in a fitness product on ClickBank right now. I forget what it's called, but something like that. This is the story of how I was staring down the barrel of an M16. But that's going to capture someone's attention. Then you go into that story, and there's like this Walter White type story of him trying to protect his Bitcoins, and then all of a sudden, boom, Bitcoin insurance. Like, it's however you bring that in. Does that make sense, Brian? I'm hoping that I make sense. Yeah. So, and that's the struggle, right? With these leads, they're hard because if you don't get the, yeah, if you come across too strong in the story that isn't really compelling, because there really isn't a story here, it's just descriptive stuff. And then if it's not relevant to the headline, then you're going to lose them regardless of, this is actually kind of funny and interesting, but not enough for me to stop and read. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. On or off the chain. If you're not selling meth on the darknet, you're better off the blockchain. That might be a better headline. Honestly, considering what you're trying to sell, that might be a better headline. You're selling to people who are considering to use it, which means they have some knowledge, so they understand what the word blockchain means, and they understand that it was used to sell drugs. So you can say that that Bitcoin was used to sell drugs via the Silk Road, blah, blah, blah. You could use that headline as an attention grabber. If you're not selling meth on the darknet, you're better off the blockchain. This is a story about how I got an M16 shoved in my face after trying to protect my Bitcoins or something like that. Non-tech users, one-stop shops, da 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 da. Yeah, I don't think you made the case for why your stuff needs to, like specifically for Coinbase. Yeah. So I think that's the major feedback I have. I think it was a little meandering. I think the overall concept of like Bitcoin insurance, if it actually is something that is a current controversy, you can tap into that. But if it's a manufactured controversy for your piece, I don't know if it's necessarily compelling. But yeah, it is a hard assignment, so don't worry about it. Just having the wrong lead kind of makes the whole assignment flop a little bit, and I think that's a good lesson to learn in copywriting. Like if you're going to write a piece of copy, here's some insight. When I write a piece of copy and I'm, maybe it's on a deadline, or if it's something I'm not interested in, or if for some reason I'm just feeling down that week or whatever, 90% of my time when I'm writing a piece of copy is going to be spent on the headline and the lead to make sure that I'm really, really proud of that and focused on that. The rest of it is going to be throwing together the proof elements, the testimonials, the offer stack, all that kind of stuff, because that stuff is just stuff that needs to be in a sales letter. As long as it's congruent with the lead and the headline, it's stuff that you can kind of, just understand needs to be there, like urgency factors and testimonials and multiple buy buttons and bonuses and all sorts of stuff like that. That's all something that just comes with a sales letter and comes on every template. It's the lead and the headline that really captures people and gets them to buy into stuff. So that's where I'm going to spend 90% of my time. Yeah. Okay, good. Good. I'm glad, Brian. All right. Next one. Brian. Sorry. You guys like to, for some reason, peel out on December 26th. All right. Grade assignment number 3, Grace. Grace. And then Tarkin, and then Chris, and then we're done. All right. Libertarian, left of center. They don't drink, smoke, take drugs, or gamble. Man, you must not know libertarians very well. I'm just kidding. kind of. All right. Most in this group do not believe they've used cash credits in 5 years. Okay, so they're early adopters. So you're going for early adopters. And intellectual reward. Okay, so you're going for a very sophisticated audience here. A $200 investment in Bitcoin in 2001 would be worth over $1 million today. Will you be on the next Bitcoin millionaire, or will you miss the boat? You can't win if you don't play. They said they don't drink, smoke, or take drugs or gamble. Grace, are you on here? Nope. All right. So that immediately, like you said, they don't do any of those things, and yet the first thing you do is say you can't win if you don't play, which is a gambling headline. Also, I don't think this is the language that these guys speak. They don't say I found it all a bit silly. It just doesn't make sense, Grace. I mean, remember when you were growing up and all your friends were allowed Atari games? I do, and the thing seems as foreign to me as calculus. I couldn't pry my hands off the machine, but I found it all a bit silly. Never got computer games, and I have poor comprehension of things like Angry Birds. So, yeah, this just doesn't make sense at all, Grace. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, are you a gamer? Are you not a gamer? Are you techie? You're not a techie? Are you a gambler? Are you not a gambler? I'm not really sure. This doesn't make any sense. This might be more of a lead. Bitcoin is the top performing currency of 2015, and then I would put something like even beating the dollar or some other currency that did well this year. Sorry. Kicking butt, not really 32-year-old language. Hedge fund managers, taking notes of Bitcoin. That might be interesting. Yeah, this is another example of what I was talking about earlier, where the lack of knowledge that you have on Bitcoin is coming out in the piece as how you wrote the piece. What is BitNinja? BitNinja has... Is BitNinja related in any way to Coinbase? I don't think it is. Okay, so this assignment, in my opinion, is broken. I don't necessarily understand what you're trying to do with the lead and the headline. I mean, the headline is okay if you're trying to capture an investor audience. And yet you're kind of going after a technological angle with your target market, who don't gamble, but then you use a gambling headline and the lead doesn't make any sense. And you're talking about not being a tech person, but being confused, but then talking about BitNinja, which is like API integrations and crazy amounts of market stuff, and I just don't think this piece works at all because I don't know what's going on. And on top of that, we're not talking about BitNinja. We're talking about Coinbase. So you used a different product. I don't know why you went with BitNinja at all. So yeah, I think this assignment is just in general broken.
So that's my feedback on this one. We could talk about it offline if you want. All right. And that was Grace. So, Tarkin, here we go. Do yours. Are you on live, Tarkin? Nope, Tarkin's not on live either. Thank you guys for being here the whole time. I appreciate it. Day after Christmas. Market self-critique a little bit. It's long. All right, cool. 35, 49. Again, very big age range here, Tarkin. CoinDesk report, second biggest demographic uptick of Bitcoin behind. Okay, so that's the main demographic. Politically conservative, 70K plus. Level 2, level 3. All right. Does not currently use. So self-critique, I'll read that later. Let's do this. Chris, worried about your money being eaten by inflation. Okay, that's a concern. Is Bitcoin the newest, safest hedge against the collapsing dollar? Again, another concern they have. Usually that's an older demographic concern. But this, I would say these guys have it too. How the super valuable digital gold currency can help protect your life and your life savings. Okay. So a question-based headline needs to have a, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, my computer threw up Chris's, and I was reading Chris's first while it was centered on Tarkin's. I'm still getting used to this whole, like, one screen centered on one assignment type thing. So sorry, guys. Trying something new today, and you're seeing the foibles. All right, let's go over Tarkin's, and I'll go over Chris, even though we were just going over that a little bit. Okay, so as Bitcoin continues to surge, Coinbase takes significant strides towards becoming a fully featured digital asset platform. Okay, recently updated Coinbase dashboard reduces friction when buying or selling. So this, again, excellent. This looks like a news article. So well done on this. This looks like a news article, but it's written by the founder of Coinbase. It could easily say sponsored right above it and still be good content. So good job on that. Now let's look at specifically what you wrote. As Bitcoin continues to surge, Coinbase takes significant strides towards becoming a fully featured digital asset platform. I like the layout, I like the style of headline, Tarkin, but at the end of the day, this headline still needs to capture my attention, and it doesn't give me a reason to read about this because it's about Coinbase and not about the prospect. The level 2 and level 3s of awareness are going to be not necessarily looking for Coinbase stuff specifically. That'd be level 1 audience who are interested in Coinbase. Level 2 awareness people are going to be looking for some sort of solution to their problem. And if their problem is they don't know what Bitcoin wallet to use, or if their problem is they have problems with security, if their whatever their problem is, they're looking for a solution to that problem, and they're aware of certain solutions to that problem. So this is not hyper relevant to that level of awareness, and potentially is not even relevant to a level 1 audience, because taking significant strides is not necessarily relevant to a level 1 audience that needs to learn more about Coinbase or wants to hear about a good reason to invest or something like that. So I don't think that the headline works. I like the layout and how this looks like a article that I would read on Fortune or Time.com. So I enjoy that, but I don't think that your headline or subhead works. It does not capture attention.
So Bitcoin has experienced incredible growth these last few weeks, with many predicting the next year it will finally reach the mainstream. Okay, I would source that. So all right, so which can occur when switching between a wallet and an exchange service. Okay. So all of these, so this piece that you wrote, Tarkin, I think you buried the lead, because as an advertorial, I would be interested in hearing the perspective of someone who's in the industry, aka Brian Armstrong, Chief Executive Officer of Coinbase, and his perspective on the global outlook of Bitcoin rising in 2017. The Greek bank run, Brexit, Trump, and all of those things, and the Italian bailout, all of those things are interesting to me as a potential Bitcoin investor, which is level 2 of what you want to talk about. But the headline makes it look like it's basically a PR press release that I don't need to read and isn't relevant. So if you said something like the 4 global factors influencing Bitcoin's potential meteoric rise, that sounds like a journalistic headline that I would want to read, because it's got 4 specific things. I want to go look at it, and it has to do with Bitcoin. Now you're going to talk about these 4 things. And once you talk about those 4 things, you can start incorporating the aspect of security and mainstreamness. And that's going to then go into the idea that you need to join up with Coinbase because they have that fully featured digital platform. That's how I would rearrange this piece. So that's my feedback for this one, Tarkin. Okay. Chris, this is yours. And this is the last one we have. So, as I was saying on this one, Chris, I'm saying a lot. I'm sorry, I'm reading it as I talk. Again, we're dealing with an awareness here. If they're the second biggest demographic, their awareness is level 2. They're very aware of Bitcoin. They just don't currently use it, right? They've heard of Bitcoin, the various wallet services, which means they kind of like, know about it. You probably say something like "you've heard," like that, instead of "you may have heard." So you've heard of Bitcoin, the brand new digital currency, or I would just say the digital cryptocurrency, because it's not brand new anymore. You've heard of Bitcoin, the digital cryptocurrency that's, I don't know, I would say something like, maybe like talking directly to their cynicism. You could say something like, you've heard of Bitcoin, the digital cryptocurrency that whose volatility and meteoric rise have captured the interest of investors worldwide. But did you also know it's an amazingly effective hedge against inflation and greater protection from systemic economic shocks, like the global financial crisis? Read on to find out why. Here's the story. So that's going to capture my attention because it's incongruent with what I currently believe. If I think Bitcoin is, like, what do they believe about Bitcoin at this point? Do they believe it's volatile? Do they believe, like, what's their reason for not joining in the first place? That's questions that you want to ask yourself in this research. Because if they don't invest in Bitcoin, or they don't have a Bitcoin wallet yet because A, they think it's volatile and not a great thing to actually invest in right now because they're going to wait it out or whatever they have to do, I think that that's going to be more important than the kind of going over what it is. You want to understand where they're at in the conversation going on in their head. Does that make sense? Chris? Okay, so with this lead then, by capturing them at their current level of awareness, I don't know if this lead does that yet. Because this is more of a problem awareness, like level 3 or 4. Like, nobody really sits up at night worrying if their money is going to be eaten by inflation. They might sit up at night and think, I don't have enough money, or like, I don't have enough money in retirement, and if I lose it, because the stock market crashes, then I'm screwed, and I have to work for the rest of my life, and I never get to retire. That might be something they stay up late at night, maybe. But like a level 3 awareness audience is going to be focused on an immediate problem. They lay awake at night thinking about that problem. A level 4 awareness is going to be desire aware. So they're vaguely aware in the back of their minds that they are, maybe need to figure out that retirement thing one day. And then obviously level 5 is not connected. So if you're going for level 2, which is solution aware, you're not going to be necessarily talking about these vague problems. Does that make sense too? And again, it's kind of more of a prevention style headline, like protect your light savings, maybe not so much, but maybe like back, you saw a couple of other advertorials that were focused on like investing in gold or something like that, connecting that that gold association with Bitcoin is really powerful for older audiences, which is what you're going for. I mean, not quite as old as the other ones were, but these guys potentially could be interested in prolonging their wealth rather than acquiring more of it. I would say more on the 49-year-old side than the 35-year-old side. Again, I think this is a huge demographic, so I wouldn't necessarily target this on my own. Even though they say it's the second biggest demographic, yeah, it's because they have a huge data set. Like this is 15 years versus 10 years. So, and I can't read the whole thing, I'm sorry. I know you keep going over, but I can't read the whole thing. Digital gold, again, using Nathaniel Popper, that's good stuff, I like that. Once in a lifetime. You gotta have something more than 2010 if you're talking about once in a lifetime. Because that was 6 years ago, almost 7 now. Yeah, bury the lead. Gold's a good one for older audiences, but like I said, it has to be older audiences, because a lot of people who invest in gold and silver, who are interested in investing in gold and silver, are concerned about maintaining the current level of wealth that they have, rather than increasing their wealth or growing their wealth. Like, growing their wealth is a bonus, but they're more concerned about not losing what they currently have. And that security mindset, that hoarding mindset, is more powerful necessarily than risk, because a 65-year-old man is not going to gamble with the $500,000 that he raised or that he saved up his entire life for his retirement. But if somebody says it's super secure and he could potentially make an extra 10, 20, 30% on that or more, but it's still super secure, then he's got their, you've got his attention. Okay, yes, safety, security. Okay. Credentialized Bitcoin services. Cold storage, safer money, Coinbase is pioneer, the bomb test. All right, if my 69-year-old mother work out how to use the app. Interesting. Okay, this might also be fascinating because you buried it. Like, put this up there. Like, if they're confused about Bitcoin and you tell them about the bomb test, it's going to completely shatter their misconceptions about how complicated Bitcoin is. Yeah. Brian asks, is it legal to make up a fake person, names, and a totally believable story in a copywriting piece? Yes. Obviously, check with a lawyer for any specifics. but there's no rule against making up a fake person. There are every single day you see sponsors, you see endorsements from celebrities, you see fake people like Flo or the Gecko on Geico or Progressive. And so the having of a fake person or a spokesperson or a fake story is fine. Legally, and again, consult a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving legal advice. But to my understanding, it's more related to the claims you're making and whether or not those are true, not necessarily the person saying them. So like Ronald McDonald can tell you that this is the greatest hamburger you're ever going to eat and it costs 99 cents. And you're not going to get sued because Ronald said it. You're going to get sued because, you know, Ronald lied or whatever. Okay. Venture capital, Bitcoin blue chip. Again, lots of advice buried down here. Or well, not advice. You know what I mean. Testimonials. And too techy, too confusing. So Q&A is good, but they have to get down here. Bullets that weren't filled out. Okay. So yeah, the feedback that I gave you, I think, is primarily what I wanted to go for. I don't think you quite hit your marketplace properly. The lead doesn't really capture me in here. Main stuff like that. But, and I think most of your leads are buried down here. Does that make sense, Brian? Or no, this is Chris. This is Chris, right? Does that make sense, Chris? Mic check. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Tried to throw too much in. I agree. It's great for a first draft because now you can cut a ton of stuff and really keep the meaty stuff rather than not having enough. Like having too much is better than not having enough because you can always edit it down. Cool. All right. Overall, guys, great job with this assignment because it was hard and not a lot of people, not a lot of people know anything about Bitcoin in the first place. Not a lot of people like Coinbase. You know, it's a hard assignment, and I put it here in the mentorship because I really wanted to see how you guys handled hard assignments, hard research, hard writing about something you're not really sure of, writing on a short deadline. This one was even more hard because it was during the holidays or the lead up to the holidays. So I'm sure many of you were celebrating or, you know, going to get family or anything like that. So this was a very hard assignment. I'm not grading them too harshly in that aspect. I think that hopefully you learned something from this because there's a lot of lessons I brought up in every single one of these assignments, but the Bitcoin assignment, like I said at the beginning, is kind of the widowmaker. It's the one that most people don't turn in. It's the one that most people have a super hard time with when they do turn it in. And it's just one of those things that really shows some of the weaknesses that you can improve upon as a copywriter most blatantly. I think that's more valuable than me saying, this is the greatest thing I've ever read, because that doesn't teach you anything. By doing these types of assignments that are really hard and getting the type of feedback that you do get, I think that over time it's going to be much more valuable. So thank you for turning these in, and I appreciate all of your time today. Any questions before we head out? No questions? I'm waiting. Motorcycles. All right, guys, no questions. Thank you for your time today. Enjoy the rest of your holidays. We will have a Q&A on Wednesday at noon Pacific time, and assignments are due on Friday evening, just as they normally are. So thank you, guys. Keep it up. You're doing good. We're almost to the mid-range mark of this mentorship program, so I'm proud of you guys. Have been doing good stuff so far. Have a good one. So